Hey guys, I'm Shaz Banu and this is the SBx3 series. This is a new series that I've just started putting together, and my goal with this is literally to provide perspectives and insight on life, mindset and business. It's going to be a combination of me talking about things from my own experience in business, and also me sitting down and having chats with some good friends and business colleagues of mine, like Gael over here.
Hello.
Hey Gael, how's it going?
Very good, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, that's all right, man. My pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. Gael is a super talented guy in like the marketing and copywriting field. And in today's chat, he is going to talk to us about how to really get to the core of human needs and emotions, and how to understand them and use them to make a sale. And so like Gael's background is actually in copywriting, but it's not just any copywriting, it's copywriting which really gets to the core of the product proposition that you might have for a client, understanding their needs, their desires, and then writing copy that's specifically targeted at those customers to really touch on their human needs to help them make their sale. So I mean, that's kind of my summary of it. But Gael, I think you're better qualified than any of us to tell us about what you do. So
yeah, sure. Yeah. So what I do is very simple, man. That's what's called direct response copywriting, and everybody usually know about copy. It's like, yeah, you just write, but which is, even though that's what you get, the real key about what I do is all the research that's come before that. Because the purpose of the copywriting I do is to influence people to make a sale, to move forward in the sales cycle. So, which is why I really need to understand your audience. I need to understand your ideal client, what's their fear, why do they do what they do. And then based on that, I use words that inspire them, that influence them, and persuade them to then become a client of your, move down your sales funnel. So that's
nice.
That's what I do, man.
And this is something you do now independently with your own business that you started. But prior to this, you built up a whole load of like kind of experience doing this for larger corporates, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. My background in that is, if you roll back from birth, essentially, is that my parents have always been in sales. So they used to sell. It was like back in the day. I don't know if you know this brand called Burlington. It's a brand of socks. Of socks,
okay.
Yeah, of socks. So my parents, when they had me, they were selling socks. And to be honest, they were making a small fortune doing that. So I've always been in that sales environment. And then as time moved on, my dad had a couple of shops. And there I learned how to sell. So how to take a client, which is like a prospect who comes in the shop, you welcome him, you build a relationship with him. And then you sell him what he wants. And then you upsell him what he needs. So which means that my dad used to sell jacket and shirts and so on. So if say you would have been a client, you would have come in the shop, you say, Gael, look, I really need a white shirt. I say, excellent. Which one do you want? Do you want this one or this one?
Mate, that's super interesting. So actually from like a really young age, you've always been in a sales environment, and that's probably given you like a deeper understanding of people's kind of psychology, even if you weren't thinking of it in those terms at that time. That's exactly that.
Back in the day, remember, I was doing that. I wasn't selling or anything. I was helping my dad, literally. And I remember when I was, I think between 12 or 14, I actually wrote a leaflet for him and for his association of shops that is still in circulation today. So that's something I've just realized that like a couple of months ago, and I'm like,
that either means that he hasn't innovated or that your copy was really frigging awesome.
What he has worked, man.
I'm going to go for the latter.
Thank you, man.
Good. And like, so at the core of all this, because I know you're big into your kind of self-development, personal development,
absolutely, man.
Tony Robbins, psychology. I'm a big Tony Robbins guy as well, and there's going to be a whole bunch of videos talking about kind of psychology and state management coming out. But that's actually something which you look at as well, and it's kind of the central driving force of everything that you do, right?
Exactly. So
what's going on? What are these kind of core human needs, etc.?
So that's the thing, man. It's like anybody on the planet Right. The thing I realized by doing more and more personal development is that every human being are essentially a nervous system. Mm-hmm. And the way a nervous system works is that it's to move an electrical current from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. And it's the more that path is used, the stronger it's going to get and the fastest the signal is going to go through that. Mm. And what it means is that as and when you do things in your life, this path are going to be used more and more. Mm. And that's how, and that based on that, that's how you are going to make the decision you're going to make based on what is the most used. Mm. And when you can, and then that then comes back to the two parts of the two main part of the brain, your limbic system and your frontal cortex. Mm. And the idea is that what you have is that human beings are hardwired for speed, and they want to do things as quickly as possible. And usually, every time they go through any experience, they associate an emotion with that specific neural connection. Mm-hmm. And so, if you can tap in that emotion, then the electricity is going to go faster through your body. Mm. And so, it's that understanding that started to make me think about how can we use that in human beings. So they've got the ability to influence them to get what will change their lives.
So in your psychology learnings, you've learnt about how people have kind of habits, shortcuts, stereotypes. Exactly. These are all kind of related in the neurophysics or whatever the correct terminology is.
That's exactly that, man.
And so it's like, if we know that, statistically people are going to behave in a certain way almost by default, how can we look at their default patterns of behavior and then tap into them when we're selling such that we can almost put them in a position where they're going to behave in a certain way?
Yeah, see, that's true, and I think there's a fine line as well between selling for the greater good and for something that's actually going to help that human being in his or her life, and manipulating them. So what I do is purely about, and that's my...
Well, of course, because I mean, one of the big things that we've always learned in all of the psychology is that whilst we can, work with people's psychology to help them get an outcome that's positive for them, actually, if we're trying to use it for a manipulative cause to get something that might benefit us but won't benefit them, then actually it doesn't work, because at their core, they have to want the outcome that you're presenting to them. It's just sometimes helping them to understand that that's the correct outcome for them.
And you've got that on one side, you're absolutely right. The other thing as well is that it's like the law of karma, but I like to see it as having the integrity in what you do. And I've done landmark, as you've done as well. Yeah. And for me, integrity is something that's very important when I sell and when I advise my clients and when I help them to sell more of their products and services. Yeah. And which is why if I want them to sell what's right for their clients, which is why then I've got no problem whatsoever to engage with them in a way that makes them want that specific product.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's super awesome. So this is what you do for your clients then.
Yeah.
And then what's like really interesting is I think that, of course, the approach needs to be tailored for different clients, and everything is going to be slightly different depending on the exact circumstance. Yeah. But there are like a core set of kind of principles or rules which apply in almost all situations, which are kind of like, it's almost like a 5-step process for how to get the outcome that you want from a client, from a person you're interacting with, based on, core human emotions. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it, man.
What are they, man? What are these 5 steps? And then let's drill down into them in more detail individually.
Well, the first thing that you need to do, so if you picture a situation when you're selling, I was just having a chat with someone. Yeah. The first thing that you must have is some relatedness with that person. Yeah. You need to have a common context. You need to identify that person as your target audience, your ideal client.
Let's, before we get into the detail, just zoom out. So let's
zoom out.
Just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's talk
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, man. So one is having the identifying who you want to speak to. It's like doing the research with your ideal client. That's the first thing that you need to do.
Awesome.
The next thing is to really build that empathy.
Yeah.
So really understanding that person. The number 3 is that as soon as you've done that, the next step is to build your own authority. Why should people listen to you?
Yeah.
When you're talking about that subject, what makes you the authority figure in that? What you do then is like you engage what's called the reciprocity rule, which means that when I give you something, after a while you will want to give something back to me.
Yeah.
And last but not least, especially if you're in business,
yeah.
is after the reciprocity, you want to get the sale.
Actually make the sale. Nice.
So that's
like the secret sauce.
Secret sauce.
5-step.
Dude.
Process.
Know
your audience.
Yeah.
Strike up empathy.
Yeah.
Demonstrate authority. Engage in reciprocity, and then make the sale.
Make the sale, exactly.
Wicked. Audience. What do we need to know?
Well, you need to understand first of all who they are. I'm seeing so many of my clients who comes to me and say, right, who are your clients? And they come and say they are busy professionals. Like 80%, if not 100% of all the professionals are busy. So this is not a target market.
everyone's busy.
Everyone's busy. So that is not a target.
If you meet somebody who's not busy, they're probably not worth talking to. Either that, or they've got their stuff so well organised that they've got everyone else working for them. That's kind of me.
Yeah. So make sure you understand who they are. So you need to understand. So you've got 2 main things to look at. So everybody would know something called all the demographics. So where do people live? What age are they? Do they have kids? And so on and so forth. The second aspect is the psychographic of that person. And that's really around the identity of the person and how they construct the identity. Where do they live and what does that mean? Which car do they drive and what does that mean? What watch do they wear? What does that mean? And understanding, so how you can relate to them by understanding that. Okay,
and then in a practical sense, can you give me an example of like how you might do? Let's just say, so away from like the a kind of more formal kind of client setting. Let's just say you're at an event and you see someone and you just want to, if nothing else, you just want to make the sale in the sense of building a relationship with them.
Simple, man.
How do you use these tips?
Get to understand them. And so say you meet them at like an event.
Yeah.
Build that rapport first.
Yeah.
And usually you do that very simply by talking with the event you're in. Yeah. What do they think about it? And then as that goes on, you start to understand who they are a bit more. Yeah. And then you see what they do, you see how they're behaving, you see with which kind of people they are associating. And then from then on, you can have discussions that goes towards that person and always seek to understand first.
Fine. Okay, good. So in the audience, it's a general conversation, establishing that kind of initial contact, seeking to understand.
Yes, 100%.
And then that transitions nicely then into step 2.
Building the authority,
Empathy.
Oh, sorry, yes. Empathy. I'm always a step ahead.
One step ahead. I think probably in your head you were already thinking about empathy in the way that you're interacting with someone.
That's the thing, it's like, you need empathy to understand. That's like these 2 things. Like you need to grasp that person.
Okay.
You need to really understand what's happening in their life.
Yeah.
You need to put your feet in their shoes.
And there's this idea of this common enemy that you talked about.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, imagine you come with a friend and then that friend is down. He had a bad day, and then he's like, "Oh man, you know what? He's an entrepreneur, by the way." Say, "Oh man, I can't. I've got this thing with procrastination. I don't do jack. That just pisses me off."
You got this thing with what?
Huh?
What did you say? I've got this thing with what?
Procrastination.
Procrastination.
It's like you don't do the shit you're supposed to do.
I thought you said properties in Asia. I'm like, man, French accent.
French accent, yeah. Hello.
So you got this. Okay, procrastination.
So procrastination, and then so you need to build who you are as that fight of procrastination, and really relate to that person. That procrastination is bad, and I know it because I've lived through it. So it's talking to that audience, the audience, striking a connection with them, identifying the thing on empathy, and a good way to think about that is what's a common enemy, that we can kind of connect over. Yeah. Now, does that common enemy need to be related to what it is you're trying to sell to them, or can it just be any common enemy to help strengthen the connection between you? So at that level, especially when you sell,
Yeah.
It's to build that rapport. It doesn't necessarily have to be related with what you're selling. Okay. It's really to get that person to buy into your story.
So it's like if you've connected with them over a common enemy, if you kind of feel like they feel like they are understood.
Yeah, that's exactly that. Because what happens when you go and gossip with someone, you've got a common enemy. That person is, he's like this, and that. Have you seen what he's done? That's unbelievable. Say, you're right, man. And then you are like that because, you know what? You get me.
Yeah.
And that's where you want to be. You want to be at that stage where you go like, yeah, you know what? You get me. And I can trust you.
Nice. Okay. Wicked. And once you've got that stage where you're vibing, you're on the same, you've got this common enemy, right? Then you're moving to authority. That seems like an interesting transition. How do you...
So with authority, as soon as you've created that relationship with that person and then you've built that empathy, you found a common enemy, the next stage is that you need to be identified as the person who can solve a problem. You need to be seen as right. If, say, the enemy is what your problem or your services solve, the problem your services solve, then show that you are the authority to solve it, that you've already done it.
But hang on, so we just said though that your common enemy doesn't necessarily need to be related to what you're selling, right?
No.
So let's take the example where your common enemy is just something you've used to connect over.
Yeah.
But then how do you move you just basically move the conversation to a place where you need to demonstrate you're an authority on something related to what the outcome is you want to get, right?
Because that's the thing as well, right? Even though the enemy doesn't have to be related, they would still have some sort of commonality with what you're selling. Yeah. And when you sell, you have your pitch in such a way that it's related.
Authority then, how do you demonstrate authority?
Well, that's the thing. So the other thing as well is that at the point of identifying, you would have already identified what the problem what the problem is. And based on that, then you can look back to that specific issue, and then you build authority around that. So the way to build authority in business, you've got a couple. One is through testimonials. So it's right, I've already done that job for this client, and that's how great I am. You can do that through being endorsed. So like having a public figure to say that what you've done is great. You can do that by sheer online presence. So especially if you are an online business. So these are the main ways that you can go about building your authority. One big as well is to do that by school association. Okay. So we've got to a stage where we've got access to our audience, we've identified them. We've demonstrated empathy with this whole common enemy thing. We've established some authority either by endorsement or testimonials, that kind of thing. Step 4. Reciprocity.
Reciprocity. So what does that even mean?
So reciprocity means that's extremely simple. I'm sure you'll get it.
I'll try.
We've got 10 more minutes to go, so I think we're fine. It's like when I give you something, the human brain is wired in such a way that you will want to give me something back. Okay. So it's like so that's how it's working. So, and then in the concept of a business, like you are going to give your client or your prospective clients, I like to call them my future clients, you are going to give them something for free, and that's going to solve a little part of their problems. It's a bit like a report, like a checklist, this kind of thing that you would see online where you go and say, right, try that, and that's going to help you solve this little part of your problem. And that's something that's going to build that relationship, that's going to build that relationship.
You're giving them just enough to get them hooked and get them addicted, and then you're the only person who can supply the rest of it.
Exactly. Exactly. So you start to give them that little bit first.
Give them that little bit first. You cheeky one. There I am thinking that all of these service providers are just like genuinely good people trying to like give me a freebie and help me out, but really they're getting to the core of my psychology. It's given me enough to get me hooked. Interesting. Fine. And then make the sale.
And that's the thing. The idea is that when you give, at least give 3 times. And then it's not make the sale, it's ask for it. It's like don't suppose it's going to happen anyway. You need to request it. So it's not like give and then take. It's give and then ask. So when you want to sell from an emotional perspective and to really build that connection with people, the 5 key steps that you need to go through is, first of all, you need to have a clear idea about the audience. You need to identify them. That's the first stage. The second stage is for you to build that rapport and really building that empathy, and ideally to a point of finding a common enemy. The point number 3 is that when you've done that, you would have already identified a problem that this audience has. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in business, right? And prove your authority that you are the person to solve that problem for them. So that's point number 3. So building authority. Point number 4 is to use what's called the reciprocity. And what I mean by that is that when you've proven that you are the man for the job, start to give something to your client, to your ideal clients that you've identified in step 1, and that's something that's going to solve a little bit of the big problem. And do that at least 3 times to finally ask for a sale. And the key word here is to ask for the sale. Don't take it for granted. Don't think that's because you've given them 2 or 3 times. The sale is given.
Nice.
So that's important, man.
So that is inside tips from a master marketing copy sales guy, and he's all about getting to the root of the psychology of the sale. So those 5 steps can be absolutely invaluable for transforming the way in which we sell to our customers, specifically from that kind of grassroots level of psychology. So thanks very much, Gael.
Thank you.
I know we've been trying to get a time in to sit down for a few weeks now, and we finally made a chance to do it. Been fun chatting to you.
I think it was great.
Yeah, man. Cheers, buddy.
Great question. You're welcome.